whenever you're ready, just a little bit of background about yourself.
Born and raised here in Cedar Rapids, went to Jefferson High School, graduated from the University of Iowa in education and coaching. Only did a year of teaching and coaching locally, and then moved on into the private sector. Left Cedar Rapids, was gone for 30 years, and moved back in 2015. Got married. For the first and only time, I got married in 2015, and my wife and I moved out to Marion in 2018. In 2020, my wife and I became the foster parents of our grandson, thinking it was only going to be anywhere from 1 to 3 month situation that we were going to be in. Well, it turned out that some things surfaced that we didn't realize, and so that 1 to 3 month commitment has turned into a lifetime commitment. We have adopted our grandson. It'll be a year in September, and he turned 4 years old last week. So we've had him since he was 4 months old, and he's now our 4-month-old son, our 4-year-old son. So life has a way of providing surprises for you. And that surprise and those events into my life made me very aware, or at least made me want to become very aware of what's going on in our school districts. I had an opportunity to meet some people, find out some of the things that were being dispersed into our schools, and just had a concern. And all of a sudden I said, hey, my wife and I, we were talking about it, and we decided this might be something we should get involved with. We have the opportunity, we have the means, we have the ability. And I had lived in Indiana for 25 years, Northwest Indiana, and I ran for office a couple times over there. I have 6 or 7 years sitting on municipal boards, so I have board experience. Working with the community, I've worked with many nonprofits and in Northwest Indiana and here in Linn County over the years. Given back, church member. I served in Indiana. I served as vice president of our church over there, and here in Cedar Rapids, I sat on the church board for 6 years and was the treasurer for 6 years. So very involved, and giving back is important. I often say, people say, how come it's always the same people that are involved in things? I said, we're the people that don't say no, and I'm one of those people. So when people ask, I try to do what I can to be a part and give back. We've been blessed. We're blessed with this child, and we have the opportunity, as I said, to give back to our neighbors and our friends, and help what's going on here in the school district. So I think, and one of the reasons and I know this may sound a little bit arrogant, the reason I'm running for school board is I think I can do a good job. I think I can do a better job than some of the people that are sitting on the board. I have experience, I have the knowledge, I have work history, I have an education background. So it gives me that a well-rounded view of the world, and making sure that all people have a voice and a representation and an understanding. So that's a little bit.
So my next thing is you talked about, your past experience sitting on other boards and running for office and things like that. So how do you think that experience will help you if you're elected to the school board?
One of the things, because I sat on the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I've sat on the Building Planning Commission. And when you sit on those boards, you have to have an open mind. I think that's the most important thing. When you're a board member, you have to come to the table with an open mind. Do not bring an agenda to the table. Listen to people, find out what their concerns are, and see how best we can provide a solution for what their problem is.
For sure. And then you also mentioned you had teaching experience. How do you think that will help if you're elected?
Well, and I love my teaching background, because what it did was when I got into the private sector and I got into sales, I moved up the ladder pretty quick. And the reason I moved up the ladder was because it was my education background. The education and coaching taught me one very simple thing: take everything back to the simplest element. You can't build without having the building blocks. So, and I always use the coaching analogy because people understand that, but you can't go play football until you learn how to block and tackle. And those are the elements that you have to have. You have to have the basic elements. So in education, it's reading, the language skills, the math skills. Those have to be formulated at an early age. That's how that helps, because that translates over when you're talking with people and when you're looking for solutions.
For sure. And then if you are elected, what is kind of your vision for the school board? What would you kind of like to see accomplished?
So here's the and one of the things that I said is I try not to bring an agenda, and it's important to have an open mind. So when people ask, what is it you want to do? I said the first thing is to have an open mind and be able to listen to people. And because when you have a child in a school district, that child is your most important concern. And it should be about protecting that child and making sure that they have a safe environment to go to school, and that they have an opportunity to have a great learning experience. School is about a journey. It's a destination. We want to get to somewhere, but it's all about the journey. Let's make that journey as pleasant and safe as possible for these kids. And so my goal coming on there, first off, I think we have to have more dialogue with the board. I've sat on boards and we had dialogue. When issues were presented, you had to have dialogue with the people to find out what their concerns were. How do we resolve this? How can we find a solution? What has to happen to make this better? It's hard to do it without dialogue. This board does not have any dialogue. They have a policy in place. You can't talk to them before meetings, during meetings, or after meetings. The only way you can contact them is through email. And then they're selective about who and when they get back to people. And so that's not the way to govern a board. A board should have open dialogue, and they should be able to address the concerns and find out what the needs are from the community.
For Iowans who are voting, what do you want them to know about you?
Again, I reiterate this, that I don't come to the table with an agenda. I come to the table with an open mind and experience. I'm a grandfather, father of a 4-year-old child. I deal with these issues that they deal with. It's not an easy role being a parent, making sure that you have to work, you're balancing. I'm doing all these things. I'm working full time. We've got a 4-year-old. I'm not 35 years old. So it's a lot to take on, and then to run for the school board, it's a lot to take on, but people need to know that I have that commitment, that I have the passion to make sure that we can have a voice in there that is not already have preconceived thoughts about an agenda that has been presented. And that's one of the challenges that we're dealing with. I believe this board has an agenda that they're not listening to parents in the community. When you have 75 parents show up at a meeting and they speak for 3 hours, and you make a decision in 9 minutes. That's not listening to people.
And so, oh, no, continue.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, so I was going to build on that. I've been, obviously Linn-Mar has been in, national news, local news a lot lately for, their policy over the summer. And so I was curious if you think that is going to play a role in this election at all, and if it should play a role.
It will. Should it? No, it will, though. Because most of these issues have been decided by the state. But it's hard to separate emotion out of these races. People vote based on emotion and how issues affect them. And so people that turn out are going to turn out based on how it makes them feel and what they want to see in the board. I get it. I can live with that either way.
For sure.
I'm hoping that people just want to get back to a sense of normalcy. And we don't need to be in the national news. We don't need to be spotlighted. We don't need to have lawsuits filed against us. We don't need to have lawsuits being settled out of court by this board based on the actions that they've done. That's not what a school board should be doing. It should be the direction should be the focus of the teachers, the parents, the students. Let's make this journey pleasant for everybody.
For sure. And then I wanted to talk a little bit. So you said you have a 4-year-old son. I'm assuming that he'll be going into the Linn-Mar School District soon.
We have a year. He just turned 4, so we probably have another. And because he was born in October, we won't be sent. He almost has 2 years before he'll be in school, because he will miss the cutoff for next year. So, but yes, we live in the Linn-Mar School District.
Okay.
I guess is the answer to the question.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just curious. So a lot of the other candidates I've talked with have kids who are in the Linn-Mar district. So my question, if you weren't going to be sending them to the Linn-Mar district, was, why are you running then in the Linn-Mar School Board?
We haven't made, Skylar, we haven't made that decision yet.
Gotcha.
We live here in the Linn-Mar district. We've got 2 years to make that decision.
Gotcha.
We'll see how things go. And that's why I'm running. I'm hoping I can make things better.
For sure. Makes total sense. I think that just about covers all my questions. Is there anything else that you want to add? You want voters to know? Anything like that?
I think I've covered it. Here's the thing. Not everybody is in a position to do what my wife and I have done. Step in, take on the responsibility of a baby and to raise him at our stage in life. Not everybody is able to do that. They don't have the means, they don't have the health. Doesn't mean they wouldn't, but it's a challenge because it's a big undertaking. And we've done that, and that commitment is what's led me to run for the school board, because I see how important it is to protect the innocence of these children.